Hey, welcome back to Journey Through Torah. I'm Michael Didier, and we are continuing our adventure going down the rabbit hole. You know what? There are a lot of things, doctrines, and traditions of men that we have learned that fly in the face of the actual words of Yehovah. I want to challenge you to think, engage your mind, put those doctrines and traditions away, and let's look at what Yehovah actually has to say. We are in Deuteronomy 5 today. Last week, we talked about the great nation. Here it is. The great nation. We saw that Israel's seed is the spiritual great nation that Yehovah has appointed above all the peoples of the earth. And I think it's interesting that this portion today in 5 starts similar to what it did in 4. It says, now Israel. There is no O. They always put O Israel. There's no O there. Now Israel, listen, Shema. Here it is on the right. Shema unto the statutes and the judgments that I teach you to do. Asa. What is the word? Asa, to do, that you may live, to go in and possess the land which Yehovah, your father's Elohim, is giving you. Not your mother's Elohim. You shall not add to those words. But look what he says. Nor take from it, to protect, to guard. That is the word shemer. So we have Shema, hear and obey, and shemer, guard, protect. And then asa is to do. Now, look at the verse that we're starting today. This is 5. And Moses called to Israel and said to them, here it is right here. Shema, Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing, that you may, there it is, shemer, guard, and protect them, and be careful to asa, to do them. Very similar, almost the same wording, really. All the keywords are there. Well, we have to understand who is Yehovah giving these commandments to. We're talking about the 10 commandments today. Which Yehovah spoke to us in Horeb, it says. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But who's he speaking to? Most people assume he's speaking to the children of Israel because we haven't taken the time to find out who B'nai Israel actually is. I've shown you many times. They are Israel's seed, spiritually born Ezra men that came from Passover. We did not leave Egypt until when? Until the day after we kept the Passover and came into covenant with Yehovah by slaughter. Let me show you something. Again, today we're going to talk about the 10 commandments, but there's more coming. So who is Israel that Yehovah is speaking to? I wrote a whole article about that. You can go to that article. Here it is right here. But the one thing I wanted to point out to you was this verse in particular. Let me go there. This is Moses coming down from the mountain. Where is it? That's not the verse I want. 14, 15. Maybe it is. Yeah, all right. Yeah, here it is. So Moses went down from the mountain. Yehovah was just telling us to sanctify ourselves, or sanctify the people, tell Moses. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people. The people. Who are the people? Let's look. We start the chapter with this. In the 3rd month, after Israel's seed had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Talking about Israel's seed. And I specifically use this purple in this particular chapter so that we see Israel. When they talk about they, we're talking about Israel. When we're talking about the children of Israel. They are the special treasure that Yehovah has set aside for himself. I should mention this also, as long as I'm here. Then we'll go back down to the bottom. And Moses went up to the Elohim, and Yehovah called to him from the mountain, saying, thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell Israel's seed, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I brought you, Israel, on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant. Some people will tell you the 10 Commandments is the covenant. I see the covenant is Passover. We will see that as we continue through this today. But he says, this is the day before. No, this is actually 3 days before Yehovah is going to give us 10 commandments. So we didn't even know about the 10 commandments that were coming, but here we're talking about obeying my voice. Keep my covenant. Then you shall be a special treasure to me above all the people of the earth. For all the people of the earth are mine. Israel's seed is the only one who's going to keep the Passover. That's what makes them Israel's seed. Ezra men. Not the 10 commandments. If we're Israel's seed, we're going to keep the 10 commandments and all the statutes and judgments that Yehovah has given us. Well, let me fall down to the bottom here. I think that was 14 we wanted to go to. Here it is. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people. We now see the people are Israel, and sanctified the people. And they washed, who's they? That can be purple too. And they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, listen to it carefully, be ready on the 3rd day. Do not come near, it says, your wives. You know what it actually says? It says, do not come near a woman. What does that tell you? See, you got to put on your thinking caps. It tells you that when we're talking about Israel's seed, we're not talking about women. There are no women who are part of Israel's seed. Do not come near a woman. He wants to keep us clean. So when we go up to see the Father and to hear his voice and to see the fire and the smoke, that we will fear him and we will be clean before him. Do not come near a woman. There were no Ger who went to the mountain. Only Israel's seed. No ladies, no girls, no maidservants or men servants. Only Israel's seed, the Ezra men, went to the mountain. Well, let's go back to where we were in Deuteronomy. So this we went through just so we understand who we're talking about. Who's he giving these commandments to? Now look what this next verse says. It says, Yehovah, our Elohim, made a covenant with us in Horeb. Folks, just because it says it in Deuteronomy doesn't make it true. There's many things in Deuteronomy that are going to fly in the face of the rest of Yehovah's word. And we have to understand his word line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. I just showed you the verse. No, I didn't show you the verse. Let me show you the verse. No, actually we did. I guess I showed you the verses that were just before that, but let's just go there really quick. Yeah. We were talking about 14 and 15. Here's the same chapter. I did read 5. I didn't read 6, talking about special treasure. But here we're talking about a covenant, but we haven't got to the covenant yet. If we're going to make the covenant, the 10 Commandments. But he says he brought us out on eagle's wings. When? After we kept the Passover. So with that in mind, let me go back. I want Deuteronomy 5:2. There it is. All right. So again, the covenant can't be the 10 Commandments if we're in chapter 19 and 20 is when we're going to get the 10 Commandments in Exodus. Now, look what it says in Psalms. And I use this all the time. It's so important. Gather to me my saints. The word is chesed that they're translating saints into. It literally means my kind. Gather to me my kind. Remember, we were created in Yehovah's image, but we fell away, and became into Adam's image. No longer in Yehovah's image. But now, because of the covenant of Passover, we can come back into Yehovah's image. Spiritually born men, my kind. Look what it says. Gather together my saints, my kind, my chesed, those who, what does it say? Cut my covenant with me by slaughter. I'm here to tell you the 10 Commandments is not the covenant. Passover is the covenant. And if we are in covenant with Yehovah, he gives us some very distinct instructions. The 10 Commandments, though most common law is based on much of the 10 Commandments, is not the covenant. Passover is the covenant. Let me continue. Yehovah did not make a covenant with our fathers. Did he? Did they understand thou shalt not steal? Did they understand the Sabbath? I think they did. Some things that we saw, especially in Yasher, when Dinah was taken by Shechem. The boys said some things that rang distinctly from things that are in the Torah, his statutes and his judgments and his ordinances. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. But for us, those who are here today, all of us who are alive, Yehovah talked with you, y'all, the green is y'all, face to face, on the mountain, in the midst of the fire. Now they say fire, but there was smoke as well. Yehovah talked with you face to face, both in the plural, on the mountain, in the midst of the fire. I stood between Yehovah and you at that time to declare to you the word of Yehovah. For you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up to the mountain. He said, you did not go up to the mountain. You know what? We heard the words of Elohim, the 10 Commandments. We were there. We saw them in the midst of the fire. How can I show you that? If I go to it was after we heard the 10 Commandments that we didn't want to hear the rest of it because we thought we would die. And this makes us think that we didn't hear them, but we did hear them. It's the rest of the statutes and judgments and ordinances that Moses went up to the mountain to get from Yehovah that we said, we will hear and obey. He's kind of reiterating that when we saw the beginning of this chapter, which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them and be careful to do them. Shamar them and be careful to do them. Protect them. So here is the beginning of the 10 Commandments. He says, I am Yehovah, thy Elohim. Hear that? He's not using the Ya'al. He's speaking to each man individually. Thy Elohim, who brought thee, I guess I need to make that also yellow, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thee. He's talking to Israel, but he says thee. Look what it says in Exodus 4. This is Moses talking to Pharaoh. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, actually, I guess this is Yehovah talking to Moses, telling him to say something to Pharaoh. What's he going to say? Thus says Yehovah, my son, my firstborn is Israel. Israel is Yehovah's son. We got this whole theology going about Jesus being the Son of God, the only begotten of the Father. Folks, it's a lie. You've learned lies. You've accepted it because you don't know Torah. You haven't listened to people like me who have invested their life into understanding Yehovah's words. My son is Israel. My son is also my Bikor, my firstborn. Those who cut covenant with me by slaughter. My kind, the spiritually born men, multi-generation. That's what B'nai is. Multi-generations of spiritually born men. If we have B'nai Adam, those are multiple generations of men. I call them the walking dead because they haven't been reborn. They're walking dead. When they die, they're going to die. When Israel's seed dies, they're going to raise. That's why he says, gather together my seed. Those who cut covenant with me by slaughter, we're going to be raised from the dead. And if the men are, so are the women who are bone of their bone and flesh of their flesh. So let me finish the verse. So I say to you, let my son Israel go that he may serve me. But if thou refuse to let him go, indeed I will kill thy son, thy firstborn. Hear that? We did not get to leave Egypt until when? Until we became his firstborn. The next day we left Egypt. Yehovah's son serves and has a covenant only with him. That's the covenant. I put Israel as a spiritually born group of men who serve only Yehovah. We can't serve the Elohim of the land and be Yehovah's people. No, you can only serve one Elohim. We're going to talk about that in the next verse. That is what the first commandment is all about. Yehovah, the Elohim on the mountain, is our only Elohim. Well, let's go to the next verse. He says, you shall have no other Elohim. You know, they left out a word, and the word is Hayah. You shall have no other Elohim existing before me. You could almost say you could have no other Elohim before my face. You could make the existing be before, in which they often do. Before my face. No other Elohim. What's an Elohim? We're not talking about idols. We're talking about lawmakers and judges. That's what an Elohim is. And we have lots of Elohim in our land. But that's not what we're supposed to be about. You know, this is the reason why we wear tzitzit. That's why we wear these. Why? Here, I think I've even got the verse. Yeah, 15. And you shall have a tassel, the tassel. It's really a tassel, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yehovah and do them, and that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your own eyes are inclined. What's the harlotry? We want to serve men. That's harlotry. You serve the Egyptians. That's what they're talking about in Ezekiel 16. You serve the Egyptians. You serve the Chaldees. You were a harlot. And that you may remember to do all my commandments and be holy to your Elohim. That's what we have the tzitzit for, to remind us that. First commandment. That's the first commandment. You know, people don't get it. You can't. What do? We do God country family. What's our country? It should be the land of our birth. Well, we have a land of a second birth. That's our country. It's a heavenly country. We aren't serving the Elohim of the land. We're serving Yehovah. Oh, I could show you so much. If you only knew even a little bit of law, the lies would astound you. They are tricky, those lawyers, those Elohim of the land, to get you to serve them. Well, let me continue. Second commandment. Here it is. Verse 8. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or was in earth beneath, or that is in the water of the earth. You shall not bow down nor serve them. For I, Yehovah, your Elohim, is a jealous Elohim. No, is a jealous El, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons, not the children, upon the sons, to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. But showing, oh, this is interesting. I'm skipping some of my notes, but showing kindness. Look at the word they use for kindness. Chesed. It's a variation of chesed that we were just talking about when we were talking about my kind, my saints. Showing kindness to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Well, let's talk about this for a little bit. We're talking about carved images, golden calves. I think Jesus is the golden calf of the modern age. We have been tricked by the Catholic Church, who gave us the New Testament writings, added them to the Hebrew Scriptures, and taught us doctrines and traditions of men, so many times reinforcing those in our services, in movies, in books, till we think it's true. And we have not searched Yehovah's word to see the real truth. But how about a cross, or a crucifix, a flag, or an eagle? The Constitution, local teams, retirement accounts. Most Christians and Messianics worship Yeshua, Jesus, and treat him as their Elohim, including women. Oh my gosh. You know, I need to create a series of short articles. I've got people that ask me to do this all the time. And, you know, it's hardly know where to start. But I think the place to start is kind of where Yehovah started when he taught us the first 3 chapters of Genesis. We have to understand the role of a man I should say, maybe even the duties and responsibilities of a man versus a man's woman. And I did say a man's woman in Yehovah's kingdom. We, the world, the United States in particular, since the Second World War, maybe even part of the First World War, have started treating women as men, calling them equal rights and women's, what I want to say, don't even know what to call it. I'm spacing out right now, but liberation. There you go. Women's liberation. Let's call it women's liberation. Feminism. We've taught our women to be men, and we think it's good, but we don't understand that women were meant, created to follow their men. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. A woman follows her father until she's given to another man, and then she follows her man. Women don't follow Yehovah, but here we have women worshiping Yehovah. That's their Elohim. No, they're just following the doctrines and traditions of men. But this is what we're talking about. Carved images, false images. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. But a judge. All rise. Is that bowing down? Yeah, we're standing up, but it's the same thing. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, Yehovah, your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons. Oh my goodness. We don't see this. We have children. No, look at what the word is. Sons, Banim. There it is right there, Banim. Now, here's the third commandment. Incidentally, we're going to talk about images, the second commandment, when we talk about the Catholic commandments. Did you know they left the second commandment out? I'm going to point that out to you later. Left it out. Why? Because their churches are filled with images. Yeah, Jesus is the modern day golden calf. No different. We're worshiping something created instead of the creator. We learn lies. Well, here we are. You shall not take the name of Yehovah. Thou shall not take the name. Again, thou. He's talking to the son, each son individually, who makes up Israel. Thou shalt not take the name of Yehovah, your Elohim, in vain. Now we have the Lord, your Elohim. What do most people think? They think it's about swearing, profanity. For Yehovah will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Is that what it's about? No, not at all. It's about oaths. It's about taking an oath in Yehovah's name and being sure to do it. Because Yehovah even swears in his own name. And what he says, he does. And if we don't do it after we swore in his name, He's not going to hold us guiltless. It's a serious breach in etiquette. Here, this is, I guess, I have swears oath in Yehovah's name. Let me see what we have here. Let's just go there. Whoops. I want to go here. SWE, swear oaths in Yehovah's names. Here, this is what we're talking about. You shall not swear by my name falsely, nor shall you profane the name of Elohim. I am Yehovah. How do you profane the name of Elohim? By swearing falsely. You shall fear Yehovah, your Elohim, and serve him, and you shall take oaths in his name. Take oaths in his name. Swear by Yehovah. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about profanity, folks, which is what most of the world thinks. Not at all. Well, now we have the fourth commandment. Observe the Sabbath day, the Shabbat, to keep it holy, as Yehovah, your Elohim, commands you. 6 days thou shalt labor and do thy work. But the seventh day is the Shabbat. Today is the Shabbat. 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. It's a never-ending cycle. We even have Shabbat years. Every 7 years, we have a Shabbat for the land. And every 49 years, well, we have a Shabbat. And then in the 50th year, we have the Jubilee. Shavuot is 7 Sabbaths also, plus a day. It was on this day, 7 Sabbaths plus 1, that I think Yehovah gave his 10 commandments to his son, his Ezra men, on the 50th day after that barley harvest, barley celebration, shall I say. Yeah. But again, 7 weeks plus a day, just like the Jubilee, 7 weeks plus a day. There's sevens all over. Now, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yehovah, thy Elohim. In it, thou shalt do no work. Who's the thou? The thou is the Ezra man, Israel's seed, who went up to the mountain. Now, let's find out who isn't the Ezra man. It tells us right here if we just look. He says, thou shalt do no work. Thou, and who? Thy son. Thy son is not the thou. Thy daughter is not the thou. Thy male servant, Aved, are not the thou. Thy female servant, not the thou. Thy ox, thy donkey, nor any of thy cattle. That doesn't say cattle, it says behemah. So that would be cattle and sheep and goats and all the animals, all the four-legged animals. Now it says, nor the stranger who is in thy gates. He's not the thou, not the thou. The thou is the only one left is the Ezra men. That's all there is left. He goes on. This is kind of added, I think. No, maybe it's the next section. It says, who is within thy gates, that thy male servant and thy female servant may rest as well as thee. Now, here's this weird thing. Let me see what my note says here. Go. The ox, thy ass, and thy behemoth. Behemoth, that's what it is. Behemoth, sheep, goats, and cattle. Here we have, this is Deuteronomy. I don't want to do Deuteronomy. Where are the wise? Where's the wise? How come it doesn't say you're wise? You have to ask yourself this question. Why doesn't it mention women? It mentions daughters. It mentions maidservants, but it doesn't mention women. They're wise. Why? I put, they do not exist. They have become their men. They are part of him, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. They're not at the mountain. Their men are. Remember he said, don't go near a woman. There's no women there. Always have to ask, who's missing? Do we have everybody? No, we don't. Well, now look at this next verse. This is Deuteronomy. And remember that thou were a slave in the land of Egypt, and that Yehovah, thy Elohim, brought thee out from there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore, Yehovah, thy Elohim, commanded thee to keep the Sabbath. This verse seems to be added to me when it says you were a slave, we're aved. Okay, so we're talking about males. Thou were an aved. Yeah, we were a slave. Most of us are slaves in the world today. We don't know it, but we are. Serving other masters. But look at, this is how it ended here in Deuteronomy. Here's how it ends in Exodus. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. It doesn't say anything about slaves. Why? What happens? How come they're not the same? See, these are things we have to ask ourselves. Are there liberties being taken in Deuteronomy? Just have to ask yourself these questions. Honor thy father and thy mother, as Jehovah thy Elohim has commanded thee, that your days may be long and that it may be well with thee in the land which Jehovah thy Elohim is giving you. Remember, ladies don't get land, only men get land. What's the word here? Honor. Kaved. 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 It says treat it heavy. This is not about obeying. It's about respecting. Treating what they say with importance. I'll leave it with that. Thou shalt not rashak. Lo rashak. Here it is. 2 words. This is it. Lo Rashak. Rashak. Remember, we're talking about murdering. We're not talking about killing. Remember, we talk about the Rashak. No, the remember when we were talking about a man who is killed accidentally, and the kindred redeemer, that's the word I'm looking for, goes out to kill Moot, the Rashak. Two different things. Lo Rashak. Now we have Lo. Here it is right here. Lo, I guess maybe it didn't go. What happened here? I thought I put a note here on this. About committing adultery. What's adultery? You know, most people think that if a married man goes to another woman who's unmarried, it's adultery. But that's not what adultery is. We don't understand it. And again, this false image is designed by the handlers that we have in the world to keep families small. Adultery is going to another man's woman. That's adultery. Going to a wife, the woman of another man. Here. A man who commits adultery with another man's woman, he who commits adultery with his neighbor's woman, the adulterer and the adulteress, shall surely be put to death. We're not talking about a single woman. Now, if a man wanted to bring a second woman into his family, he can do that. Exodus makes it very clear. And Isaiah 4 reinforces it. What does it say? In the last days, 7 women will take hold of one man. We will provide our own food. We will provide our own clothing. Only let us be called by your name. What's happening? Oh, it says that let us be called by your name that are something about a reproach. Let me go there. I just think it's important that we're talking about this. Isaiah 4. In that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own food, wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach. What's their reproach? We have to ask ourselves those questions. What is their reproach? Their reproach is they realize they need a covering in their life. And I think they're coming to a point where they realize that the Ezra man is the one that they want to have in their lives. Not just any man, Israel. Well, you know, this whole business about polygyny versus polygamy. Excuse me while I just step on my soapbox for just a moment. Men were made to have more than one woman in their life. The world, our handlers, don't want large families. They want small, controllable families. In fact, they work very hard to get the man out of the family so that they can take control of the family themselves. That's what a marriage license is all about. A marriage license. Do you realize that when you get a marriage license that you are becoming engaged to the state? The state is actually the head of the marriage. not the man. The state is the head, which is why they can separate the marriage. It's why they can take your children. That's where husband and wife, those are very legal terms, not a man and his woman. They are not the same thing. A husband and his wife are, what shall I call them? Actors in the play. And no, under the authority of the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Folks, you're being played. They want small marriages. You cannot be married to two women as a wife and a husband. That is polygamy. But polygyny is multiple women in our lives, and that gives us the ability to protect our family, not have our kids be taken from us, and to grow very large families. This world does not want large families. They're harder to control. Well, we're talking about adultery. Again, taking another man's, sleeping with another man's woman. That is adultery. If you're going to add another woman in your life, I think your current woman should be involved in it. It's not about sleeping around. No, I'm not promoting that at all. But I do promote multiple women in a man's life, done correctly. The next one, you shall not steal. Here, look at this. This is, am I still on? Yes, I am. Here, let me show you. I'm going to, let's go to this letter. Lo, Rashak. Lo, this is adultery. Naaf. Lo, and va, lo, and lo, and no, and neither shall thou ganav, steal, thievery. Very short verses, but Yehovah's making his point to the thou. He's talking to the Ezra men. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now look at this. This is the 10th commandment. Oh my goodness. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's woman. Thou shalt not desire. They put desire. That's really weird. Deuteronomy uses two words in this particular verse. Let me show you. This is Exodus, and they say covet. Thou shalt not covet. There it is, covet. Kamad. Thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet, kamad, thy neighbor's appendage. That's my word. Woman. My neighbor's woman. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. My woman is no different than my hand, my arm. She's me. Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I would say, she is he. Or she is me. But they use kamad both times here. But in Deuteronomy, for some reason, they use No, that's not the first one. Is it the first one? I guess it is the first one. No, here it is right here. They use kamad. And then it says, thou shalt not kamad. Neither shall you desire kamad, thy neighbor's woman. But then they say, neither covet avah, thy neighbor's house. So why do they have two different words when in Exodus it's only one word used twice? I think there's something going on here that's important. And I think it has to do with the Catholic Church and their confession booths. Confessing that this word desire, kavod, and this word avah, again used covet. This particular word seems to have lust involved in it. And maybe that is the word that we're talking about, because we're lusting after our neighbor's woman and his house and all the things that is thy neighbor's. Let's read the whole verse. Let's look at it. Let me go back. Here it is. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's woman. You know what? In Exodus, it doesn't start with a woman. It says this: thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's woman, Isha, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. What are all these things? All these things, including the woman, are possessions of the man. They're his things. Anything that is thy neighbor's. Do you see what's going on here? But why in Exodus does it have the house first, and in Deuteronomy it has the woman first? I think that's interesting. Especially that they use a different word in Deuteronomy than they do for the rest of it. Here's this is the word, kavod. Desire, to want something that is pleasant out of desire or lust. His house, his woman, his prize bull, his amazing servant. Whatever, anything that is thy neighbor's. Now let me show you something. This is the Catholic 10 Commandments. I think this is very revealing. Here they are. Catholic 10 Commandments. One is about Yehovah being their only Elohim. But they go ahead and they say this commandment calls for exclusive devotion to Elohim, rejecting idolatry and placing God above all else. No, the first commandment does not have anything to do with idolatry. They're saying this in the Catholic Ten Commandments because they took out the commandment about idolatry. And they don't want to tell you that directly. Now, there's a Ten Commandment that's missing. Number 2 is missing. What did they do to take care of that? Well, here it is in number 10. They made an extra commandment. You shall not covet your neighbor's woman. They separated the woman from all the things that are your neighbor's goods. What we just read in the real 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's woman, thy neighbor's maidservant and male servant, or anything that is thy neighbor's. But they had to make a difference. They had to keep 10 so it doesn't show up, and because people don't know Yehovah's word, when they separated the neighbor's woman from it, that's how they did it. Oh, there's so many things that we have or should know that have been hidden from us. Okay, let's go to the next verse. We're running out of time here. These words Yehovah spoke to all your assembly. Whose assembly are we talking about? Israel's assembly, the Ezra men in the mountain from the midst of the fire. So now they do say that we heard them from the mountain, from the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness with a loud voice. And he added no more. This is what we heard. This is when we got afraid. This is when he said, we don't want him to hear anymore. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. So it was when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness. Well, the mountain was burning with fire that you came to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, surely Yehovah, our Elohim, has shown us his glory and his greatness. And we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that Elohim speaks with, what's the word? Ha-Adam, the man. Yet he still lives. We're amazed. Now, therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of Yehovah, our Elohim, any more, then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living Elohim speaking from the midst of the fire as we have and lived? You go near. He's saying, you go near. They're telling him, thou, really, yeah, thou go near. They're talking about Moses. Let's make sure we have that. Thou go near and hear all that Yehovah, our Elohim, may say, and tell us all that Yehovah, our Elohim, says to thee, and we will Shema. We will hear and obey. They put, we will hear and do. It's pretty good. We will hear and obey. We will Shema. Then Yehovah heard the voice of thy words, which thou spoke to me, the words we just said. And Yehovah said to me, I have heard the voice of the words, the voice of the words, the sound of the words of the people, who are the people Israel's seed, the Ezra men, he spoke to at the mountain, which they have spoken to thee. They are right in all that they have spoken. Oh, that they had such a heart. Oh, listen to this. This is Yehovah's heart. You know, getting to know Yehovah. You can only get to know him by listening to his words, to understand what makes him feel certain ways. He has emotions. He has thoughts. Listen to this. He says, oh, that they had such a heart in them, that they would fear me and always keep my commandments, that it might be well with them and with their sons forever. Them and their sons. It says, and for them and for this says these last two letters says their seed. Now, I would even say sons. It could be sons. Be unto them and to their sons. Doesn't say seed because it doesn't have a proper noun after the beneath. For them and their sons. Most of them did not have a heart to serve Yehovah, and everyone over 20 are now dead. That's how it was. They heard the words of Yehovah, but they didn't fear Yehovah like they said they would. And now all those men are dead, and their sons are now standing before Moses this very day on the plain of Moab. He goes on, go and say to them, return to your tents. Return to your tents. As their men have tents. In their tents, remember that all that belonged to them, in their tents are their women and their children and their servants. Return to your tents. But as for thee, stand here by me. He's talking about Moses, thee. Stand here by me, and I will speak to thee all the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which thou shalt teach to them, and that they may observe them in the land which they go, which I am giving them to possess. Who's he talking to? He's talking to the Ezra men. The Ezra men are going to possess land. Ladies don't possess land. So again, it's showing us what's going on. In fact, I think I even said something about that. Here's the sons. Here's the, Moses does not teach another man's woman. He's not talking to the ladies. And I am not teaching any women to follow Moses. I'm not. I teach no women to follow Moses. I teach women to follow their men. I only teach women to follow their men. Women do not possess any land. This is always a context clue to know that Yehovah is talking to Israel's seed. Only Israel's seed is going to get the land. The Ger are not going to get the land. The servants are not going to get the land. The Ezra seed, remember, it's the land and the seed, the land and the seed, the land and the seed, what he said to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These are the seed that are getting the land. And he says, so teach them. Israel's seed is yet another context clue. Yeah, that's right. Okay, just a couple more verses here, folks. Therefore, you shall be careful to do as Yehovah your Elohim has commanded you. This is Moses talking to the Ezra men. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which Yehovah your Elohim has commanded you, that you may live. Commanded you, that you may live. So let's take the reference. We follow him. We, Israel's Ezra men, follow Yehovah's ways that we may live. What does that mean for the person who isn't an Ezra man? Who the person who isn't Yehovah's ways? Will they live? and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. Well, that's where we're going to stop today, folks. I hope you find this interesting. I want to challenge you to think deeper, build understandings on a good foundation. Get the idea of the children of Israel out of your minds. It's a false image, and it's going to screw up your lives. Men and women have different duties and responsibilities before the Father. And we need to learn those to live and prosper and stay in good health. All right, well, we're going to stop here, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to like this, share this. If you wouldn't mind, I would be very grateful. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time. Bye now.